Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished entrepreneur, an author, and a fellow member of the YPO from Mexico City, Mexico, Mr. Simón Cohen. Simon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. It's great to be with you here on your show.
Thank you. Simon is the president of Henco Global. He's an author, and all of you know I'm very partial to authors. He's an author of a book titled Fulfilled, The Secrets of an Entrepreneur Who in Search of Success Found Happiness. Simon is also was recognized as one of the most trusted CEOs in Mexico. He's got his own show on Mexican television, and as I mentioned, he's a fellow member of the YPO. So, Simon, we're going to talk today about your book. But before we start talking about your book, tell me about your journey.
Thank you, Ashutosh. I was born in Mexico City in a middle-class family. My parents in 1980 had a big economical crisis, and they decided to move to Monterrey, which is 1,000 kilometers north, very near to the border to the US. And we arrived there with literally nothing. My father was totally bankrupt, and one of his brothers was living there. So he went to join him on a business. I was a very sick little kid, Ashutosh. Asthma and all these allergies were driving my mom crazy. And during one of these crises that I had, they took me to the hospital. And back then, when you have a very strong asthma, situation, they put you in these oxygen chambers, right? And I hated those chambers. And I had to be there like for 3 days. And I hated it because there was no iPhone or iPad or nothing that we can play with.
Yeah.
So when I was coming out of the hospital, that last time, the doctor told my mom, "Hey, listen, you want your kid to get rid of this asthma, terrible situation?" And my mom said, "Of course, put him into swimming." So I started swimming, just like as a medicine, okay? And I became national champ. I became Central American champ. I became Pan American champ, and on the Olympics in 1996, I came up close. 3/100ths of a second. And I was frustrated. I was so frustrated. So things happen for a reason in life. And that was my learning from that. When you get what you want, is life directing you. When you don't get what you want, is life protecting you. And due to that failure, 3/100ths of a second, right? Which is nothing.
Correct.
I'm married with Tammy, my wife, my lovely wife. We have been married for 28 years. I have 3 beautiful daughters, Joanna, Yale, and Michelle. They are the love of my life.
Absolutely.
And I started my company. And because of that failure of being 3/100ths of a second late, everything changed. And I became, the best version of myself. So failure sometimes is not getting what you want, because that is a wonderful stroke of luck. So I started working in logistics back in 1998 because I was working with my father and making some exports. And I realized that the freight forwarding companies and the shipping lines were giving me a lousy service. So I said to myself, I want to do it myself. I want to have one day a company that is polite, that can tell you the truth, that it's not lying, that answers the freaking phone, So one day, this German guy calls me and said, "Simon, by any chance you know anyone in Monterrey who speaks good English, who has a good network, and who is, an expert in the industry?" And I said, "Yes, it's me. But you don't know anything about the industry." "I know nothing, but I would like to start."
Right.
And just to finish the story, that's the way I started Henco. He called me back and he came to Monterrey. I took him to visit several customers. And when I took them there, I was the famous guy, the swimmer that was a failure. Okay.
Correct.
I was 22 years old, but I never drank, I never used drugs. I was super disciplined. The parents of my friends loved me because I was, a super nice kid. So they gave me the opportunity, and that's why I joined the logistics world.
Wow. What an amazing story. So I'm making a mental note that I'm going to, in a few months, reach out to you, and we'll talk only about supply chains and Henco Global.
Absolutely.
That would be quite an amazing story. But let's now move to your book, Simon. You're the author of a book titled Fulfilled, The Secrets of an Entrepreneur Who in Search of Happiness Found Happiness. Do you want to show us your book?
I know. Absolutely, yes. It's In Search of Success Found Happiness. Let me just take the wrap off.
Yeah.
So yeah, the book is very simple book. It's full of quotes, and it tells a story of my passion for work. I was a workaholic.
Mm.
Here's the book.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, I wanted to work 24/7.
Mm.
When I started my business, I fell in love with logistics, and I really wanted to be the best in, the best version of myself.
Mm.
I promised to myself, Ashutosh, that I failed in swimming, but I will never fail in business. And I
Mm.
said, I don't care if I have to work 24 hours,
Mm.
365 days a year. I'm going to be successful. And successful
Okay.
for me, my mind
Mm.
was money.
Mm.
Okay. But if you achieve economical success, sacrificing, your health, your family, or your friends, that's not
Mm.
success.
Mm.
That is not success. So I
Right.
decided to change my life after an episode. When I was traveling in China,
Mm.
couldn't sleep for a week. I needed to have some rest, but my body was, in such a hype that I worked 24/7 for a week.
Mm. Mm.
And suddenly one day I was waiting for dinner for some Japanese people
Mm.
in Hong Kong. They were coming to have dinner with me in this place called the Pacific Club. It's a beautiful place. You can see the skyline of Hong Kong. It's just
Yep.
amazing.
Mm.
And I was waiting for them, and I started feeling a big pain in my chest,
Okay.
a deep pain. It was very, very, very painful. I
Mm.
was with my wife, fortunately. I went to the table to sit a little bit, just to wait for them to come.
Mm.
And when they showed up, they were like 20 minutes away. They were just arriving to the restaurant. I, tried to stand up to say hello, and then boom, a big hit in my chest. So I,
Wow.
grabbed my wife's hand and I said, "Gorda, please call an ambulance." And then, everybody came. I was ashamed. I was in such a stress that I stood up again.
Mm.
And then the second hit, Ashutosh, and I fainted.
Wow.
The next thing I know is that I'm in an ambulance in Hong Kong. I don't understand the language. I don't understand literally what's going on. And the doctor tells me that I had a heart attack.
My
I
goodness.
was I was 32 years old,
Wow.
super achiever.
Mm.
I have achieved everything I wanted in life except the Olympics. But I was a very healthy human being, and I was suffering because I was going to die at age 32. And when you're in an ambulance, Ashutosh, going to the doctor
Yeah.
with all this stress on your shoulders, you don't think about how much money you have.
Correct.
You don't think about how big is your house or how many containers you move or air freight tons. You think about your daughters. I had three
Yeah.
daughters,
Mm.
and they were 6, 4, and 2 years old back then.
Mm.
I was thinking about leaving them alone in this world.
Mm.
I was thinking about my father, my mother. Obviously, my wife was with me.
Mm.
And when I arrived to the hospital, they plugged me in with, all these machines. And after a couple of hours, the doctor showed up and said, "Simon, now we know what you have. You have something called Wolff Parkinson White disease.
Wow.
It's a double electrical cord that I have in my heart that I was born with,
Mhm.
but I never knew because I was a high
Yeah.
performer
Yeah.
athlete, right? So I was in the hospital. They told me, hey, listen, and we also checked your blood test, and you have a very high level of cortisol.
Hmm.
You have a lot of stress. If you don't calm down, you will die." So I was in the hospital for 5 days, another 5 days, excuse me, in the hotel recovering.
Mm.
I decided to fly back to Mexico, and on the long flight, from Taipei to Los Angeles, right in the middle of the flight, boom, another hit in my heart, but
Wow.
40,000 feet up.
Mm.
I thought there that I was going to die, Ashutosh. I arrived to Mexico. A doctor appeared there, and he gave me some pills and injections and whatever. And I went to the doctor immediately when I arrived to Monterrey. They put me all these EKGs and all the machines for the
Mm.
heart.
Mm.
And they told me, "Hey, Simon, you have Wolff Parkinson White and a lot of stress. If you
Mm.
don't slow down, you will die." So I didn't believe the Chinese doctor nor the Mexican doctor. So I came to the US and I went there. They told me, "Simon, you have Wolff Parkinson White
Mm.
and a lot of stress. If you don't calm down, you will die."
Yeah.
So for a year, I was struggling with my health. Deep, I was really had a bad time. They
Mm.
gave me antidepressive pills, anti-anxiety pills, sleeping pills. I was like a robot. I was like a puppet.
Mm.
Until one day I decided, and this is, the life-changing experience,
Mm.
I decided to go to the Caribbean, and I rented a place in the middle of nowhere. And I took my my three daughters and my wife. And there was nothing, literally nothing. So I started sleeping well, eating properly, meditation, exercising, playing with my daughters, earthing, all these kind of things that I thought that
Mm,
they
mm,
didn't work, but they do work.
yeah.
And by the fifth day, at night we were having dinner and playing games at home, and the power went out of the entire island. And my daughter started crying.
Mm,
So I said, "Hey, I have a surprise for you."
mm,
So I took some towels, I laid down on the sand, I put my three daughters on my belly, my wife on my back, and we were laying, in the most beautiful night that you can ever
mm,
imagine,
mm.
watching the stars. And I started crying. And my 6-year-old told me, "Dad, what's going on?" And I said, "Gorda, I just don't know the day that I'm going to die. Unfortunately, my situation, my disease, has something called sudden death, so I can die anytime.
Wow.
So I promise you that from now on, I'm going to be the happiest person on earth, or I will try to be the happiest person on earth. And I'm going to be happy at home, and I'm going to be happy at the office and with my family and with my friends. And I'm going to try to be fulfilled." So, we cried. And long story short, I came back to Mexico and I showed up at the office and I said, "Guys, listen, I'm not in drugs, but I have to tell you something, okay? Listen, this has to be the happiest company in the world to work for.
Mm,
And happiness needs high performance. So we need to create something that it's evolving both of them. So we need to be high performance
mm.
and we need to be happy. How are we going to make this happen?"
Yeah.
And that's why I started this philosophy called high performance happy people.
Wow. What a powerful story, Simon. Thank you so much. I mean, and you're obviously such a good storyteller because I almost relived everything that you went through, and I could see, everything that you were going through. Thank you so much for sharing this. Now let's come to your
Thank you,
book.
Ashutosh.
And I think you've covered a large portion of your book, in this story as well. But I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Mr. Simon Cohen's book. I'm going to get a copy for myself as well. So, Simon, you emphasize wellness, mindfulness, and happiness as key pillars. Why are these three elements essential for fulfillment?
Let me ask you something, Ashutosh. What's the difference between a high performance sports team and a high performance business team? There's absolutely no difference. Okay. So I decided to treat my people as high performance sports team. I know that in India you love cricket, and in Mexico we love soccer or football, and in the US they love American football. Okay, what is the difference between a very very high performance company and a very very high performance sports team? Let's
Yeah.
talk about Leo Messi, which all know, right? When he was about to play the World Cup final, last World Cup in Qatar. Listen, he was not running until 4 o'clock in the morning. He was not doing abs, and push-ups, right? He was relaxed. He
Hmm.
was visualizing himself. He
Correct.
was putting all the energy, the correct energy. He had the correct, proper food. He
Hmm.
had the proper visualization exercises. So why, when we have an important event in business, we work our, butts at, until 4 in the morning, right? Relax, sleep, eat well. So the philosophy is very simple. The first pillar is wellness.
Hmm.
If you want to perform, you have to be okay with yourself. You
Hmm.
have to be healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. So eating well, sleeping well, and exercising is basic. It's
Correct.
the most important part, because if you're okay, everything else is okay.
Hmm.
So we do give mandatory sleeping seminars for all our employees.
Hmm.
Mandatory. Because if you sleep well, you perform better.
Correct.
Right? Okay, it's easy, it's simple. But people, they don't want to sleep. They want to just work and work and work. And that's not the secret sauce for
Hmm.
success.
Hmm.
Second pillar, mindfulness. Mindfulness. If you are relaxed, if you know how to breathe,
Hmm.
we give breathing sessions to every employee,
Correct.
like teach them how to relax. When
Hmm.
you're stressed, you have breathing exercises that
Hmm.
can help you relax.
Hmm.
Okay. But if you're sleepy, we also have breathing
Yeah.
exercises
Hmm.
that take you to the next level.
Hmm.
So we teach them how to breathe, how to meditate, how to do yoga. And, the most important, how to be grateful. Gratitude is the
Correct.
secret for every single, point of success. That's
Hmm.
the second pillar. The third pillar is called happiness. Ashutosh, it's okay to have fun when you are working, but do not confuse. This is a great place to work. This is not a great place to come and have beers with your friends. We're here to work and perform and be the
Correct.
most efficient company in the world. Let me tell you a secret. In 2022, JP Morgan, this incredible bank,
Hmm.
named us the most efficient company in the world. And they
Wow.
asked me why.
Hmm.
And they asked me why. And I said, listen, because my people sleep well, eat well, exercise, meditate, are grateful, they have fun, they
Hmm.
help others, they do charity. And when they have to perform, they have all the tools to be a high performer,
Amazing.
right? So that's more or less the philosophy in
Absolutely.
2 seconds.
No, but tell me, when you were wanting to implement these philosophies, did you face any obstacles or resistance from your team? And if so,
Yes,
how did you tackle them?
everybody thought that I was crazy. Hey guys, let's do a seminar. What it's all about? Logistics, containers, air
Mm,
freight,
mm,
customs. And I said, no, we're gonna learn how to sleep well. And
ah,
everybody like, God, this guy's crazy. No, I'm not crazy. I'm gonna teach you how to be the best version of yourself.
mm,
But when you're okay, it's like when you're in an airplane. They
mm.
tell you if in case of an emergency,
Yeah.
put your mask on first.
Mm,
And if you have your mask on first, then you can help others. If you're not okay with yourself, there's absolutely no way that you can be okay with someone else.
correct.
So that's exactly what we do in this company.
Amazing.
But all the people were, reluctant. But let me tell you a secret.
Mm,
I learned to be happy and to work happily and, to share this incredible energy
mm,
from my coworkers.
mm,
Because when they saw me suffering back in 2007, when I had this epiphany,
mm,
they said, we love you so much, Simon, that we really want you to be as happy as you can.
mm.
And they taught me how to enjoy work, how to
Wow.
be happy at the office. And we arrive and we have our meetings, high performing
Mm,
meetings, but we laugh and
mm.
we make fun of ourselves. And
Yeah,
when we do crazy shit, we do crazy shit, you know?
absolutely. Absolutely. But then, let me ask you more, a bigger question. And, given the amount of work that you've done within your team, and I'm sure you've spoken all over the world about your own story, what do you believe is the biggest misconception about happiness in the corporate world?
So let's define happiness and fulfillment in
Yeah.
a different way, okay? Happiness is bidimensional.
Mm,
I can be happy to be with you here,
yeah.
recording this beautiful episode. And I can be mad with my wife. It's not the case. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
I can be, happy with my wife and be mad with my parents, be happy with my parents
Mm,
and mad,
mm,
at work.
yeah.
So happiness is just a feeling of, that it's bidimensional. When
Mm,
you're fulfilled and listen, when you're fulfilled, it's when you see yourself in the mirror and you feel at peace. When you look and see your wife, your husband, your whatever, and you're at peace. When you see your children, you're at peace. When you see your job and you're at peace. When you see your friends and you're at peace. When you see your entire life and you're at peace. And then you go back at night, you see yourself in the mirror again,
mm, mm.
and you breathe in, you take a deep breath, and you feel at peace.
Yeah.
And that's when you're fulfilled. And that feeling is super hard to achieve
Correct.
if you're not conscious
Mm,
24/7 that you don't have to be euphoric.
mm,
Euphoria is not happiness. When
mm.
your team scores a goal and you shout and you're screaming like, ah, that's euphoria. That's not happiness. That's
Correct.
not being fulfilled.
Correct.
So we don't, we cannot confuse happiness, fulfillment,
Mm,
and euphoria. And when you are in there, you have to explain to your people that we're here to work. This is not a happiness place. Just this is not Disney.
mm,
You're not surfing in Sayulita smoking weed. This
mm.
is not happiness. In order to be happy, okay, you need to be a high performer. You need to achieve your goals. And the
Correct.
more you achieve your goals, the happier you are. And that's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So please don't forget that high performance
Mm,
brings happiness.
mm.
Okay, being lazy or being, watching movies in Netflix or Bollywood movies,
Mm,
that doesn't bring you happiness.
correct.
That's part of entire life.
Yeah,
That's part of the rest that you must have, but that doesn't bring you happiness
absolutely. Happiness has to be from within. I think that's very
from
important.
within.
And that's a very powerful message you're giving all of us. Simon, you also spoke about gratitude and how important it is. Tell me more about how does gratitude play a role in your philosophy of fulfillment?
I mean, you cannot be happy if you're not grateful. I
Yeah.
mean, it's as simple as that. Gratitude is the most humble, honest, incredible feeling that a human being can have.
Hmm.
And you have to be grateful for what you have, but also, and this is the most important part, you have to be grateful for what you don't have,
Hmm.
because we envy others. We see that the grass is greener on the other side, but don't, sometimes not getting what you want is a wonderful stroke of luck, my
Yeah.
friend. And people uh, when they feel that they need something that they don't have, and they fight for it, maybe they can destroy their own lives,
Hmm.
trying to achieve something that will not bring you happiness.
Hmm.
Because if you're not happy with what you have now, you will not be happy with what you still want. And when you have it, it's impossible. Happiness or fulfillment is a feeling that is born from within.
Yeah.
And it's being at peace. And if you want something that you don't have, and you fight for it, and you want to achieve it, and you get sick because of that,
Hmm.
that's not happiness, and that will
Well
bring you
said.
problems instead of satisfaction.
Well said. So, I have time for two more questions for you. Simon, given the amount of technology all over the world and artificial intelligence and young people wanting to achieve so much more, how do you envision the future of work evolving when it comes to talking about prioritizing wellness, mindfulness, and happiness?
So this is a beautiful question. Thank you for asking it, Ashutosh. We have a project internally in the company called TATE,
Mm,
TATE,
mm,
Talent and Tech. You cannot have the best technology without the best talent, and you cannot
mm,
have the best talent without technology.
mm,
They go hand by hand. And if we don't make that work, in a complete harmony,
mm,
that will create a catastrophe.
mm,
So we believe in humans. We believe in the power of connection. We believe in humanism. We believe in facing each other and saying, giving each other a smile and, a big hug. In Mexico, we hug a lot. And, a big hug, that transmits and shares your energy with people, right?
mm,
So good energy is contagious, but
mm.
also bad energy is contagious.
Yeah,
So if you want to have good energy, surround yourself by people that are positive, and you will be positive.
yeah,
So if you surround yourself by five people that love, art, you will be the sixth. And if you surround yourself by the people that love, football, you will be the sixth.
yeah,
But if you surround by yourself by six lazy people, you will be the sixth. So
correct.
positive energy is contagious.
Mm,
Negative energy is also contagious. We need to just put everything together between technology and people. They cannot go on their own. They have to be together. They have to work aligned.
amazing. And my last question for you, Simon, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self based on the lessons in your book Fulfilled?
Sure, I'm a very anxious person, Ashutosh, and I have to tell you that the only thing that I would tell Simon back then, like 30 years ago, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Don't get overstressed. You will get sick. I got
Mm,
sick because of stress.
mm,
I worked 18, 20-hour shifts
mm,
because I wanted to be wealthy, and money doesn't bring you happiness. It's, of course, it's important. Of course, don't get me wrong.
yeah,
The more you work, the more you achieve, the
correct.
happier you can be. Of course, 20% of my happiness formula, goes to money, no, to wealth. I'm
Mm,
sorry.
yeah,
You cannot be happy if you're starving or cold, right?
yeah,
You cannot.
correct.
So yeah, I would tell Simon, hey, listen, calm down, work hard, take care of yourself, and everything's gonna be okay.
But a follow-up question I must ask you, because I've also said this very often, and some young people have told me, you can say that at your stage of life when you have, created your wealth, achieved what you have to. Would you say the same thing to a young 21-year-old starting life?
So let me tell you what I tell a
Yeah.
21-year-old:
Mm,
work hard, but also play hard.
correct.
Work as hard as you can. Press the accelerator 100%. But
Mm,
when you finish, stop,
yeah.
stop, and that's
Yeah.
what I didn't do. and relax and sleep and meditate and laugh and enjoy life. Because if not, you will get sick.
Correct.
And there's no money in the world. Ask Steve Jobs. He died at 56, I believe. With all the money in the world, he was one of the most powerful persons in the world. And suddenly, boom, life hit him hard. So, hey, listen, Alice in Wonderland, this movie. I'm not a movie fan, but I see some pieces of movies. Alice in Wonderland says, start from the beginning, go all the way to the end, and then stop.
Correct.
Breathe in, and then you start again from the beginning.
Correct.
But the problem is that we don't learn how to stop and how to relax and how to disconnect to connect again.
Yeah.
We need to recharge. We need to be 100% in your batteries and your energy.
Absolutely. And on that note, Simon, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me about your own incredible journey. 3 by 100th of a second from a medal in the Olympics in 1996 seems to have really changed your life, to have taken on, built an organization, achieved so much, driven you to your dreams. And then at 32, sitting at the Pacific Club in Hong Kong, you suddenly go through this amazing realization because of your health. A lot of people don't make the changes you did, but you had the strength and the willpower to make that change in yourself, not just for yourself, for your beautiful daughters and your wife, but to your entire organization. And I think that speaks a lot about you, not just as a leader, but as a human being as well. I think I enjoyed every minute of our conversation, that you were talking about your experiences, your perspectives. And I do believe that every word that you have said will be heard several times by my viewers and listeners, because there's so much depth in everything that you've spoken. Thank you again for speaking.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. And don't forget to buy Fulfilled in Amazon globally. Just put Fulfilled and my name, and you will find it. Of course, they will print it out and ship it to you. But if you like it, just give it as a present, because every single penny that I make out of the sales of this book are going for charity. So help me help more people.
Absolutely. And I will once again reinforce, please go and buy Mr. Simon Cohen's book, Fulfilled. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website, www.tbcy.in, to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.